Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Queens of the DMV. I'm here with my co-host, Arnita Greene,
Hi.
Arial Pegues,
Hey.
and we have a special guest today, Evelyn Miller Randolph. Yes, I'm adding the Randolph today, representing, even though shady, you just said go by Evelyn Miller, but this is my bestie, so I can give her a hard time, of Smart Settlements too. But today we're talking about multi-generational living and the increase that we're seeing in people that are buying homes and living with their families. And I thought this would be a great addition because 10 years ago plus I thought she was losing her mind, and moving in with both sets of parents. That means her husband's parents and her parents too, all under one big roof.
Wow.
So today we're going to get real controversial with it and find out the good, the bad, the ugly. But before we do that, always follow us and subscribe to the Queens of the DMV on YouTube, Spotify, and of course, follow us and subscribe on Instagram. Every Thursday, we are hosting a new podcast, and we are going to get right into it. Queens of the DMV, multi-generational living. And Evelyn, you are here today as both, someone that's living the dream right now with all the help in the world that you can need. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got yourself into this amazing situation.
So I have been practicing real estate law for about 17 years. And when my husband and I first moved to the DC area, we had our own business. And it was just a really small title company. And we could not imagine how we could have a child. Like, we were newly married, and we could not figure out, with his family living in Florida, my family living in LA, and just kind of only friends like locally for support, and such a small company where we could barely take a 3-day weekend. So we were thinking, well, how do we do this? Maybe we should invite parents to move to town to live with us. And it's something I never would have thought that I would have done. But at the time, it just, like, when the idea occurred to me, I just kind of knew it was the right thing. And so we decided to ask both sets of parents, not actually thinking that either one would say yes, actually. But we felt like one set might feel some kind of way if we didn't invite them, and then the other set moved to live with us or something. So we're like, they're probably not going to say yes anyway. So let's just make the offer to both of them. So we made the offer to both of them, and both of them promptly accepted.
Wow.
So then we were kind of like, whoa, okay, so we got to search for the right kind of house because this could be crazy. And we managed to actually find a house that kind of had separate living areas for everyone. So initially we were just like renting a house that was set up this way. And we had ground rules, like we set up ground rules initially.
We want to hear these ground rules. I don't know
Right.
these before.
Because how long have you been living together?
It's been over 11 years now.
Okay, yeah, we need to know the ground rules.
Well, so I think that it's important to come up with rules that are important to you. So like what my rules are might not be what is right for everyone. But so for me, I knew that it was important to have rules about who could decorate the home. Like, I was not going to be happy in my house if I couldn't decorate it the way that I saw fit. And so I said that up front, like, this is how we feel about this. Like, I'm going to need to be able to have free reign over decorating everything. They all signed up for that. None of them were particularly interested in that. So that was fine. Also, just kind of the understanding that at the end of the day, it's me and my husband's home, right? And you guys are living with us, but like, there is kind of a hierarchy of like decision making and stuff like that with what's going to happen in the house. So we kind of had to establish that. I mean, because obviously, like, there's a master bedroom, there are, there were these other living quarters as well. And we kind of figured out who was going to do best in which area of the house. So that was, I think those were the main things. There were more rules that came later on. So I had a child 1 year after they moved in, because that was kind of the plan anyway, right? Is that we wanted to have a child and we couldn't figure out how to do that if we were, just solo. So once my son was born, the grandmas would fight over who got to take care of him. I mean, it was like major.
But they're in the same house, right?
They're in the same house, but like they wanted their solo time with him.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a good problem to have, but it was also a problem. So we put them on a schedule, and they remain on that schedule 11 years later.
Really? I didn't know.
Wow.
Yeah, it's every other day. So if there is childcare going on, like during the week, for example, they are every other day, and it just rotates constantly. So that way they don't fight. There's no disagreement about whose day it is. And if they need to trade a day, or they want to trade a day, then they have to talk to each other about it and figure that out. That was one of the biggest arguments that we ever had in our household, was them fighting over the baby. So, yeah, but it's been, I think it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing for us, for my son, and also for my parents, for my in-laws. There are definitely bumps in the road, but I think all in all, it's been wonderful. Like, my son really knows his grandparents. I know I didn't get the chance to experience my grandparents on the same level. So I think it's amazing.
I love it.
So what do you think are some of the daily bumps that you see in the road, having, especially because you don't only have two other grown women in the house, but you have two other grown men in the house too. Yeah. And sharing that kind of authoritative role, your husband's there, and then you have these two other men who have been historically in charge of their households. And I know your dad really well, and I know he has a very dominant personality. Yeah. So how did you guys get through those daily bumps, and what were those daily bumps?
Sure. So my dad, for example, is messier than I think anyone else in the house. So we realized very early, initially, like, our house had a full kitchen and a full daylight basement. And it was a large basement with like a living area and an office and a kitchen and a bedroom. And so that was kind of my parents' area. And that worked out really well, because my dad is like, he loves to cook, but again, he's very messy. So that would have, I think, driven everyone else nuts upstairs if in the main kitchen he was kind of cooking and making a big mess all the time, because we were much neater upstairs. So we realized when we actually moved to the home we live in now, we bought a house and we kind of built it out to be perfect for our family at that point, because we knew that this was going to be, a long-term thing. So we built an even bigger kitchen in the basement this time, because we're like, yeah, that's kind of where you need to cook. It's best that way. But so that was something that was kind of a bump in the road, of just, people live differently. Like, some people, my dad loves to like feed animals that are outside, like leave, bread and biscuits and this and that for like animals. And we're kind of like, there's just food everywhere in the yard. Like, why are you doing this?
From LA? Feeding animals from LA? That's where they from, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, my parents are both originally from Florida, but they lived in LA.
Okay.
Time. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, he just wants to like feed the birds. And I'm like, you're feeding more than the birds. They're like foxes and all kinds of things like coming up behind the house, So I think, just things like that where, people live differently. They have different comfort levels with, with clutter, with messiness, with when you clean stuff up. One of the things that has been great, different people, we've been living together so long, it's like you start to play your position, and my father-in-law likes to clean up the kitchen every night, and he likes to empty the dishwasher every morning. So like, I can't remember the last time I did the dishes at night or emptied the dishwasher. It is his thing. Like, if he hears me touching the dishes in the dishwasher, he's like, I got it. So that's great. He takes out the trash. So they're just certain things that, different family members have decided it's like their role, like I'm the cook. So I'm the one, for some reason, the whole house likes my food, but no one else's. So yeah, it's weird. So it's like I'm out working all day and they're all like waiting for me to cook dinner. But that's become my position. Like I'm the cook. So I'm the one that will make brunch or make dinner or, and it's not that the other family members don't know how to cook, but for whatever reason, like it just doesn't really translate to everyone, So, and there have been times when that was even kind of challenging for me because I'm like, sometimes I want to cook, but I don't always want to cook.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, I would be getting phone calls sometimes, like while I'm still at the office of like, hey, what's for dinner? Like, when are you going to be here to cook dinner? So that's a lot of pressure to have not only like my son waiting for food, but like a house full of adults too, So I think, I don't know. I mean, stuff like that has definitely, it's been a challenge, but I think the longer we've been living like this, like we've kind of gotten accustomed to, to the arrangement. There are blow ups sometimes though. Like sometimes the parents don't get along.
So what are they not getting along about though?
It often has to do with my son. It often
so it's all based on, yeah.
It's still kind of that same issue of like time with him.
So it's not really about space in the house. Like, oh, I want to be in the secondary living room today, and this person
right
too much time.
Well, I want to cook this time in the kitchen, or I don't know, or So I have a question about. So, did you find the home just like it is now, or did you have to do any renovations to make it work for everybody?
I did like a gut renovation to my house.
Wow.
Cher actually helped me find my house.
Okay.
And oh my God.
It was a long road.
I love it.
Yeah. She helped me search high and low. And I at times thought I was going to need to build a house from scratch because, I basically need 2 in-law suites. I mean, how often do you see a house with 2 in-law suites?
We see one often, but not 2.
Yeah, you want them to have small rooms.
Yeah. So when I found the house that we're in, it had a floor plan that was already very conducive to what I needed. It had a master on the main. It had a full daylight basement with like large living space. It didn't have a kitchen in the basement, but it had room to put something like that in. And then it had kind of like this other wing on the right side of the house with a private staircase and just a really large for no reason bedroom. That can be like kind of like bedroom with a sitting room, almost like a second master is what it had.
Perfect.
So we just kind of undertook the project of, we're going to tweak this house a little. We didn't really need to do anything too structural. I mean, putting the new kitchen in the basement was probably the biggest adjustment that we made to make it conducive for our family. I did take there's a formal dining room that I turned into a TV room for my father-in-law.
Okay.
Because in the previous house, he would basically post up in the main den like 24/7 and just be like watching TV. And the main den was also open to the kitchen. So that was a little bit, it was kind of like other people didn't really get to use that room solo because he was always in there. I've even joked with like my friends because Cher has probably been over and like, we're like gossiping in the kitchen and then all of a sudden you'd hear him like giggle every now and then because he's totally listening to our entire conversation. He's like listening to everything. He's pretending that he's watching basketball or something, but he's like listening to every word. So we made him his own little TV room. We closed in what was the formal dining room, moved the formal dining room to a different like sunroom area. But yeah, I mean, I think that was very important, like getting the house with the proper layout. And we knew that, like everybody knows the area.
Right.
As it is now, like everyone kind of has a separate bedroom and also like den or TV room type thing. So you don't have to crowd into the common areas to have some space. You can actually have that in your own area. So I think that's been useful. You know what? Another rule I forgot to mention we made a rule that we would have the house professionally cleaned.
Okay.
So, you know, like I didn't want to have to worry that like, oh, we have to be assigning cleaning roles and this and that.
Yeah, with that one.
Yeah. With that many people, you just got to have the house professionally
I
cleaned.
so agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to come see the house. Sorry, I did.
I know. We have private Queens of the DMV live podcast from there.
Yes.
Totally should. I even have an outdoor COVID-friendly area that Cher is familiar with. We could be outside and yeah. Yeah, next Queen's at my house.
Okay.
Love it.
I'm sure we can have pop in the background or something.
I love it.
Yeah. So there's been a growing trend in multi-generational households. USA Today did a big article about this whole trend in growth with grandparents and other relatives purchasing properties together. Now, for the Latino community, for the Caribbean community, that's really part of how I grew up. I mean, you know, my grandparents lived with me. I thought it was a great idea as a kid. As I got older, I thought this was a terrible idea because my grandmother and my grandfather were bossing my mom around. I was like, I don't think I could ever live like this as an adult. But as a kid, it was great for me.
Right.
But what we're seeing in American culture now is that there are actually developers that are developing multi-generational type of homes where, you know, grandparents are on the main level and they can, you know, they may have a studio or 1-bedroom suite. And then, you know, the other members of the family are living on the top level or what have you. Nonetheless, there's a trend. And as a real estate attorney that does closings, are you seeing that trend when your buyers and sellers are at the closing table together? Have you heard about those types of trends happening? And then in your friendship circles, have you been seeing more of that?
Yes and yes. So I remember telling my friends like that I had come up with this idea. And I mean, across the board, every one of my friends was like, you are nuts. Like, this is great. I would say probably 2 to 3 years after I had done it and then had a baby, and like a lot of my friends now had like young children as well. Yeah. They're like, Evelyn, you're a freaking genius.
Exactly.
Because I didn't have the same limitations. You know, I could work late and feel completely happy that, you know, my son is being cared for by his grandmothers, by his grandparents. I didn't feel like, I felt like I could really still focus on my career and also have my family. Like, it really kind of enabled me to have it all, you know, and I think as women,
y'all two love to have it all. I'm just saying
that.
Well, listen, if you move your parents into your house, you can have it all. You're going to sacrifice a little bit of your privacy, but you know, I think it's been worth it. You know, I mean, I was really able to like still focus a lot on my career and then also actually on my relationship and my marriage. You know, like we could go on date night every weekend when my son was like 1 year old. You know, I've got 2 grandmas fighting over who's going to see the baby. So it's fine. You know, we could decide at the drop of a hat that we're going to go see a movie tonight or something. You know, he's going to be asleep. There are going to be 4 adults in the house. No problem, you know. Last minute trip to the Caribbean, sure, you know, like whatever. It was really great to have that flexibility. So,
but what about the stuff that no one's asking? Because I'm gonna ask.
I was just about to ask it. Just about to ask it. Evelyn, let me go ahead and ask.
Go for it.
So, I mean, do you ever get mad or pissed off at? Was that what you're gonna ask, Cher?
No, mine's way juicier.
I already know what Cher.
I mean, or just really need a break, or they getting on your nerves. I know, you know, we love our family, so I'm not saying that, but I'm just, you know, but they get on our damn nerves. Yeah. And you need a break. So is it ever like that? Because that's what I'm thinking.
It is. You know, so I have definitely, one of the things, this is, I guess, maybe a rule that I have for myself, right? If I have a problem with my husband's parents, I talk to my husband about it.
Okay.
So I have never like gone to my in-laws in anger, like, period, just because the relationship between him and his parents is something that I don't want to interfere with.
Love it.
So I feel like it's really important that I take whatever grievance I have to him. So however stressful that may be for him, and it is like that is, it still creates tension, right? It could still be an argument, you know. He's very defensive of his parents, of course, right? And so, but that's still how I handle it. Like, I'm not going to go have an argument with his mother. I know better, you know?
Definitely.
So I think that's been how I've dealt with it. I think he pretty much does the same, you know, like he'll come to me, and sometimes it's annoying. I'm like, look, I don't want to hear every little complaint you have about my parents, you know, like they're old. That's what they're going to do. Or this is how they're going to be. Maybe you just have to accept it, but it's better, you know, obviously it's going to be different for me to go to my parents and say, hey, can you do this differently, or this isn't going over well, or something like that. It's different. They're not going to hate me because I came to them with that. But I don't need my husband to have an argument with my parents that they can't undo or forget or something, you know? So I think that's kind of how we've dealt with it. I would say like the more explosive arguments have actually been between the parents.
They must really do get
like once a year. I mean, once a year, there's going to be a pop off. Like something's going to happen.
Wow.
You know, and you know, I mean, they get older, they get crotchetier. You know, like yeah. So,
I think for me, for my situation, I think I would consider it strongly, just because my mom has worked so hard to take care of us, and she was a single parent. My parents were actually together and married for 14 years, and then they got divorced. But, you know, under the right situation, I would still take both of them, you know, under the same roof, divorced. They get along, they're friends still.
Wow.
So I would take both of them in. My dad is older than my mom, but I would take both of them in under this, you know, under the same roof together. You know, I love the thought of it. And then also, like, my mom is disabled, so I want to be able to be there for her when she needs me as well. Because I mean, while they're helping us further our career and still, you know, be active in our kids' lives and just have the best of both worlds, I want my mom to have the best of both worlds too, to be able to have me there to care for her when she needs me. And so I'm strongly considering, you know, just building something out or having a place, maybe, you know, upgrading the home I'm in now so that my mom can stay. And then the other factor is we have 5 dogs. So it would be my mom, her dogs, my dogs, you know, and
that's a lot.
You know, that whole scenario. So the yard would need to be big. But, you know, my mom was my daycare provider when my daughter was born. She did not go to school until she was 2 by choice, but my mom has been retired for most of my life. And so, you know, I want her to live her best life. The only thing that she does and wants to do is play the lottery, live your life, play with your dogs. And I want you to have this, you know, in-law suite in our home, you know, just so we can all be close. And then my kids, they actually have a very close relationship with her. So, you know, as I do as well, but it's only fitting. I love this situation. I love the conveniency of all parties. And it's just, I think now family and togetherness is something that's inevitable even more than what it used to be in society. And the multi-generational situation to me is the best of both worlds for everybody. So that's just my opinion and my take on it.
Yeah.
So I do have a question though for, I mean, Evelyn and Ariel, as you contemplate making this decision-making factor, for, let's say, for example, you know, you just want to walk down and cook naked, and you just don't have that option anymore. Like,
No, you don't. You don't have that option. You don't.
or let me just take it a little step further. You can't have sex on the kitchen counter anymore because your parents may walk in on you. So there's certain things that you do have to sacrifice that keep your marriage saucy or spicy. And for someone who's in it, like, do you look back at that and say, our life could have been a little saucier in
One question, too. Evelyn, do the parents ever go anywhere?
Well, with COVID, no.
No.
Right. So that's why I was asking, because maybe you could sneak something in, you know.
No, there's none of that. My house is never empty. Like,
okay, he's so sorry.
You can't sneak, okay.
Now answer Cher's question. Now you can answer Cher's question.
Yeah, no, you can't ever walk around the house naked. This is true. I don't know that I've ever been alone in my house, like maybe once for like a day. So, the trade-off, I think, for my relationship is like, do I have less privacy? Absolutely. Do I have less freedom in my own home? Absolutely. But do I, in general, have like this other level of freedom?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I do, So I think it's a trade-off, it's definitely a trade-off. And when I see other couples who don't have this level of support, I look at my younger brother who has 2 kids under the age of 5. And, I think that he and his wife are spread really, really thin. They don't get to do much, couple stuff, period. I don't see them taking vacations. I don't see them doing date nights. I don't see them, everything is a family thing, and it's really consumed with their children. And I think that, that's I don't know that they're running around the house naked either. Like, I think that they're very.
No, not with kids under 5, because they like to bust in the room. So no.
Yeah, they've got kids in the bed with them, and
right.
They're probably so tired that they wouldn't want to do anything saucy anyway. So
look, resolution: build a room off of the owner's suite. Boom, move your brother in and his kids, and now y'all got like a huge multi-generation. Everybody is good.
I will say one thing that I didn't mention before that I think kind of helps in this scenario is that, these are 2 married couples, right? So within those relationships, there's a lot of like balance and counterbalance that goes on with each couple, right? So I think that that's been helpful. And there was a time when in the first year that we did this, Thomas's mother moved up here before his father did. So I think for about 6 months, his mother was living up here, but his father wasn't. The dynamics in the household were very different before his father came, because there was no one to kind of balance out his mom and to kind of be there for her. So the fact that we have now like 3 married couples, it's like everybody has their little unit. And also, it's like I could go to my dad and
is that the PC way of saying she had nobody there to check her?
You said it, not me. But I could go to my dad and I could say, mommy's tripping. I need you to help me. Like, she is doing this and I can't stand it. Please help, and he would go and talk to his wife, right? When you don't have that, you have no roundabout way of like getting to the person, and I think my husband's mom was very reliant on my husband for so many things before her husband moved in. So what was that?
I said rightfully so.
Yeah.
I guess.
Or not.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, he's a mama's boy, so.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I love that.
My mom would continuously be checked, first of all, because so people were like, oh my gosh, you're off the chain. All right, imagine me off the chain times 20, 100. Like, that's my mom. So, I know how to deal with her because I grew up with her, but, my husband sometimes gets overwhelmed by her personality. So, you know, that whole situation, I would have to figure that one out. But
you have to build the rules.
my mom doesn't follow rules.
Oh,
my mom is a rule breaker by nature.
Did you get that from your mom?
Ooh, what? I'm not doing that. Like, that's how my mom is. Like, what you? Nah, So I would have to, you know, really like set some boundaries, and I'm sure they'd be broken plenty of times because my mom is this. You can't tame her at all. She's wild.
My dad. That's my dad's personality. Yeah.
And my dad is really laid back. He's non-confrontational, so he's just gonna do what everyone says, which is, you know, kind of bad when you're dealing with my mom because she'll boss you around. And my dad will just do everything, you know, like, what do you need? What do you want? You know, that's how he is. So, I mean, I totally get it. Balance is needed.
I was surprised to find myself moving into, because I now live in a multi-generational situation where, you know, my fiance's parents live in the guest house, and I never thought I would find myself in that situation, especially thinking Evelyn was batshit crazy for doing what she was doing. And really, because like I said earlier, I had grown up in a very multi-generational living situation growing up with my grandparents and my great-grandmother, my uncles, like everyone being very close-knit and living with us at some point or another, and wanting to stay away from that. But in our situation, we did find the perfect situation where we were separate but together. So my son gets to go knock on his grandparents' door and go into their guest house and spend all the time he wants with them. But we still have that level of privacy where if I did want to cook naked, I could. Not that that's not the most important thing. Cooking naked is not the most important thing to me, but
it's okay.
But there is a level
overrated. Cooking is overrated.
It's overrated.
Right? No. I don't want no grease to pop on my nipple.
Not as sexy as it sounds, you guys.
But there is, I think I say all that to say that everyone has their own level of boundaries. And I think for me, like, something that was very important when we were considering our situation was, A, how would we get along living that close together? But B, I knew myself and just, you know, how I am. Like, I'm a cook. I don't share my kitchen with nobody. Okay. Like, I'm not trying to share my kitchen with another woman either. And his mom's a cook, so she has to have her own kitchen. And there's a level of privacy that I do need. Like, I do need to be able to go down into the kitchen or the living room or whatever and not have to worry about anyone else's moods besides all the other people that are currently in my house. And that's enough moods for me.
Right.
I thought you were about to say something else. You were like, I need to be able to go down. I was like, hold on, where's she going with this?
No, not there.
How long have you been living like that, Cher?
So we did this in 2017, so almost 4 years. Yeah. Okay. And I have to say, it was one of the best decisions that I ever made. You know, like, I was able to tailor it specifically to my comfort zone. And I think that that's really important, you know, for if you are considering multi-generational living, like, you have to think about those things. Like, what's your comfort level? What's the comfort level and the personalities of the people that you're moving in with? Because my mother-in-law and I get along extremely well. Like, she's not going to just pop over and, you know, it's just a free for all. Like, she doesn't do that, or neither does my father-in-law do that. We have respective boundaries, and we go over their house for Sunday dinner, even though it's like literally 10 feet away. But we do. We go there for Sunday dinners, and that's their thing. And they come over for Taco Tuesday, which I have to go cook afterwards. And that's our thing.
And I love that.
Yeah, it's super cute, and and my son loves it. Like, even though my older son, that's not his biological grandparents, like, there's a whole sense of, you know, community, and he knows that Sundays we're having dinner over there and Tuesdays we're having Taco Tuesdays, and it's a happy situation. And now looking back at it, I'm like, well, I'm so happy that I experienced that with my grandparents, because my grandpa and grandma were like two of the most important people in my life, and I got to experience that. And Darren didn't have that. So seeing his son have that with his parents is like amazing to him. So there's a wealth of positives to me versus negatives.
Yeah. And then imagine COVID hitting and you don't see your grandparents. Like I didn't see my grandmother for the whole year of 2020 due to COVID.
Right.
It's different when you're all in the same, you know, household and you're able to make that work,
Right.
you know,
But
and
then
no one's missing out on time.
that brings up a whole nother set of issues too. Evelyn, you probably have to deal with that as well. But as being as social as I am, there is a respect factor because they are over the age of 65, and we do have to be more cautious. Like, if we didn't have them living next door, I'm sure we wouldn't have had the same set of rules during COVID, and I could have been more social. But because, you know, my mother lives 10 minutes away and she comes over all the time. She's over 65. They're right next door. So there are restrictions in place because of that we just don't feel as freely, you know, living if we were living alone.
Right.
Yeah, that is, I mean, that's something that I've had to think about too. I have gone weeks without seeing my mother-in-law. Like, she has been very cautious about like interacting with the household during COVID. And you know, they have a separate staircase. They could literally come and go in the house without me ever seeing them. You know, Pop likes his TV room, so I still see him, and he still does dishes and stuff. So I still see Pop, and I usually do see my mom because she interacts a lot with my son and stuff. She also works with my company. My mom works with Smart Settlements, so she just, you know, she'll still come around and ask me questions, or we'll talk about work or something like that. But yeah, I mean, my dad, weeks would go by where we just didn't interact. You know, I don't go up and like hug my parents in the house. You know, I try to just like have a little more distance, you know, even though we're still in the same house. And I've seen statistics about transmission of COVID within a household. And actually, I was shocked by how low the numbers were. So I think the percentage, like the chance that you are going to transmit to your spouse, is only 17%. So maybe, I don't know, maybe people aren't kissing nowadays or something, but that's a pretty low percentage. I thought I thought if my spouse got COVID, like for sure I'm going to get it. I thought if anyone in my house got COVID, like everybody's just going to get it. But it's even lower if it's not your spouse. So, I mean, and I know of even households where it's like one person got it and they're the only one in the whole family, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I've heard of that too.
Yeah. So,
the COVID mystery that no one will ever figure out. There's a bunch of things.
One question, Evelyn, as a title attorney and living in your situation, we were kind of talking about this on the last episode, is like, how do you guys decide to hold title?
So my husband and I are on title.
Okay.
Yeah. So as far as like the way that we purchased the house, like my husband and I bought the house. And that was like one of the things we kind of set up as one of the rules in the beginning, right? Like, this is our house. We're inviting you to live with us.
Right.
This is something that we think will be cool. And if you think so too, let's do it. But yeah, we're on title together. It's just my husband and I.
Yeah, they got it made. They don't have to pay anything. That's
and my mom retired. She would gladly do that.
She's like, wait, hold up. No, I didn't say that.
Play lottery only and pay no bills. Oh, she would love that.
Am I wrong?
Contribute financially. Like, both sets of parents do contribute monthly into the household, you know. But in general, like, we cover all of the bills, all of the utilities. We pay for the house to be cleaned. We buy groceries. We buy, you know, paper towels, like all that kind of stuff. And they just contribute a monthly amount, each set of parents contribute the monthly amount.
I love that.
Those were the stipulations in the beginning. I love it.
Yeah.
And Cher?
So we hold title together. It was one of those things where we could have purchased a property alone, and his parents are still working. They're not retired.
Okay.
So they wanted to make an investment as well. And I didn't want to stand in the way of that. So they don't contribute equally because our house is 8,000 square feet and they live in 1,500 square feet. So that wouldn't be fair. So they hold a portion of title and then they contribute based on their portion that they're holding as part of their monthly contribution. So we do split we split utilities, but we don't split groceries or anything like that because they have their own kitchen, laundry room, all of that. So we split like the basics like Pepco, like electrical, the water, and that sort of thing. Yeah.
I love it, y'all.
Yeah, I do. So would you guys do it over again?
I would. I definitely would.
I definitely would. Yeah. Now, the interesting thing would be, and my mom's probably going to yell at me after she hears this episode, I don't think I could do this with my mom. Yeah.
Okay.
Personality type, really, because not that she's not a meddler at all, but she's definitely a pack rat. So she has 8,000 things, and I'm on the opposite end. I'm a minimalist, so I don't like a lot of stuff. So we would just be fighting about all the stuff she was bringing in the house and all the stuff that I would be throwing away, and that would be just a total disaster. But could I buy her a house down the street? Absolutely. She's an amazing grandmother and my kids love her and they would get along. She could pack all the stuff she wants in that garage in the house. But I know me, I couldn't live like that. And even if she had her separate quarters, if I went over there, that would bother me too. So versus us hating each other, then that's just not a good idea. So she can live down the street and then I can live here and it's all good. So lastly, before we end the show, one thing that was really interesting to me as I was doing some research for the show, and Arnita and Ariel, this is in your neck of the woods out in Brandywine, Maryland. Not that you guys live there, but you live closer than I do. There is a new development, or newer development, I should say, called the Mid-Atlantic Builders, and they've debuted their new multi-generational models in the Villages of Savannah, right outside DC. So we've been seeing an increase in these developers doing, rancher-style properties or communities where parents can live very close to their kids within the same communities. And these homes are designed one level, or at least on the main level, they'll have a suite. So the grandparents don't have to worry about climbing stairs and so forth. Now, I haven't personally toured these communities, but I know, Arnita, you were saying you had some experience with some clientele that were looking in the Brandywine community.
Definitely. I know that they are, they're still building over there. They are behind because I have clients on the waiting list. So just if you wanted to check them out, they are right on, I think that's Floral Park.
Yes.
Floral Park Drop. Yeah. They're right around on that area. So, and you have to make an appointment, but the homes are absolutely beautiful. So definitely check them out if you're in the area, because
And what are some of the major differences you're seeing in the multi-generational layouts versus regular new construction and new build?
Oh my gosh. So on the first floor, they have a huge master suite. It's a huge master suite on the first floor. I think upstairs there is 4 other bedrooms, and then you have another master suite in the basement. And it's absolutely beautiful. But I do remember, and I can't think of the model name. I think it's the Palermo. And that model, the master suite on the first bed on the first floor is huge. It has like a bar in it, a mini bar, and of course, y'all know these model homes have everything upgraded on it. So, but please check it out. It's absolutely beautiful.
So I've been over there, and I actually have a client that just recently purchased over there. The difference I'm seeing is that with the multi-generational, and especially this community, the layout is more open.
Mm-hmm.
It's more open. So that first floor, it's like nearly no walls. It's clear and open, and then there's less steps. Because if you have the grandparents in the property, I mean, that is kind of a beneficial thing for them to be able to move about the quarters without any restriction. And like I said, if you have anybody that's, you know, disabled, it's easier for them to get around with the openness and less stairs. So I'm seeing a lot of their models with less stairs, of course, with a basement for more square footage, but the stairs are kind of structured a little different so that it's not a lot. And that's the difference between what I'm seeing now versus, you know, some of the just regular single family or even the townhomes. I mean, you're going up 4 flights of steps versus, you know, now in the multi-generational, it might be just 1 flight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very short flight. Yeah.
And I actually have a closing coming up. I've seen a trend with my specific clientele, a merging of families. I have a closing coming up in Maryland. And they are taking not only the mom and the dad and the husband and the wife and their kids, but also the aunt and then the great grandmother.
Wow.
So there is a full, and now they bought a very large house, probably 7,000 square feet, and they are building it out and customizing it so everyone has their specific space. But they were so excited to do this, and then they were at odds about 2 years ago, thinking like, no way, you know, the husband was like, no way I'm gonna move in with my wife's grandmother, aunt, mother, and father. Like, that's a lot. And then he allegedly went to New Jersey and saw his best friend in the situation living his best life. So he was like, wait, hold up. Maybe I need to reconsider this. And that's how they found themselves in this situation. But they're super excited, and I'm excited for them because I know the benefits of it all.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you, Evelyn, for joining us and letting us pick your brain. And even though you can't cook naked, you know, there's other benefits to all of this.
We can go to the hotel for the night.
Vacation.
So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Tune in every Thursday and subscribe to the Queens of the DMV. I'm signing off with my co-host. This is Cher Castillo and
Arnita Greene
and Arial Pegues.
And we'll see you next time on the Queens of the DMV.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Evelyn.